Imagine being in a room full of people where your silence becomes your prison, where every whisper feels like a dagger and every laugh feels like it's aimed at you. Now imagine that silence being shattered in the most brutal way possible, your vulnerability exposed in front of everyone, your dignity stripped away. That's what happened to Ava, the shy girl who never raised her voice, never fought back, never dared to stand against the cruelty that surrounded her. But what no one knew was that beneath that quiet shell lived a storm, a fire waiting for the right moment to break free. And when that moment came, when the bullies crossed the line, it didn't just change her life, it shook the entire classroom to its core. This is her story. Ava was the kind of girl you could miss in a crowded hallway. Head down, books clutched tightly to her chest, always walking fast enough to avoid stares, but slow enough not to draw attention. She wasn't unpopular because people hated her. She was unpopular because she chose silence. Silence was safe. Silence meant no confrontation, but silence also meant she was an easy target. The bullies in her class knew this. 3 boys, loud and arrogant, carried themselves like kings of the room. They lived off humiliating others, and Ava, shy, quiet Ava, was their favorite prey. At first, it was little things, stealing her pencil, hiding her books, mocking her stutter when the teacher called on her. But cruelty is like hunger, it always grows. One Tuesday afternoon, when the teacher had stepped out for a moment, the boys decided to push further. They circled Ava's desk, sneering, whispering cruel jokes loud enough for the room to hear. Some students laughed, some looked away uncomfortably, but no one stopped them. Ava tried to shrink into her seat, wishing she could disappear. Then one boy reached down and yanked her notebook from her desk. Another pulled the ribbon from her hair. And before she could react, the third, grinning with a twisted kind of triumph, grabbed the collar of her shirt and ripped it straight down the seam. The sound of tearing fabric filled the room. Gasps broke out. Ava froze, her face burning with shame, her eyes stinging with tears. She crossed her arms over her chest, trembling, feeling the weight of every stare. Some kids laughed, some looked away, but no one moved to help. That was the moment her silence broke. The humiliation, the fear, the years of being invisible, all erupted into something she had buried deep inside. Ava stood, her body shook, but not from fear anymore. Her eyes locked on the boys, and for the first time, they saw something in her they'd never seen before: power. She stepped back, clenched her fists, and when one of the bullies reached to grab her again, her legs swung upward in a perfect, sharp roundhouse kick. The crack of impact echoed across the room as the boy's body staggered back, hitting the floor hard. The other 2 froze, wide-eyed, as if the air had been sucked out of the classroom. The laughter stopped. The whispers stopped. Silence, thick and heavy, took over. Ava's chest rose and fell with sharp breaths, her eyes blazing with a fury no one had ever imagined she had. For the first time in her life, Ava wasn't the shy girl, she was the storm. The room was frozen in shock. Some students stared with awe, others with fear, but everyone knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same. The bullies, once towering figures of intimidation, were suddenly reduced to trembling boys, too stunned to speak. The one on the ground clutched his side, groaning, while the others backed away like cornered animals. Ava stood tall, her torn shirt forgotten. She didn't say a word, but her silence now carried a different weight, not weakness, but power. Slowly she turned and walked to the door, her classmates' eyes following every step. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. For the first time, she wasn't the victim. But the story didn't end there. Word spread quickly. By the next day, the entire school knew what had happened. Some painted her as a hero, a symbol of resistance against cruelty. Others whispered she had gone too far. The teachers called her in, and so did the principal. The bullies' parents demanded punishment, while Ava's parents listened quietly, torn between fear and pride. When asked why she did it, Ava spoke in a calm voice that surprised even herself. Because no one else would stop them, and I was done being afraid. Her words carried weight, not just for the teachers, but for every student who had stayed silent while cruelty thrived. Something shifted in the air after that day. The bullies, once so loud, became quieter, their arrogance stripped away. They learned that fear isn't power, respect is. And Ava, the girl who had once been invisible, found herself seen in a way she never expected. But Ava didn't bask in the attention, she didn't strut or boast. She went back to being quiet, but not the same kind of quiet. This was a silence filled with strength, a silence that spoke louder than words. People no longer mocked her. Some even approached her with gratitude, admitting they had been too scared to stand up themselves. The shy girl who never raised her voice had changed everything with a single kick. And though scars of humiliation lingered, they became reminders of her strength, not her weakness. The message was clear, and it spread beyond her classroom, beyond her school. Sometimes the quietest people hold the loudest power. Sometimes silence is not weakness, it's patience. And when patience ends, the world learns to listen.